Hey y'all, Faith Gray here with Lone Star Baptist Church, and you're watching our 5th episode of our podcast, Just Add Water.
Mesothelioma. Also, this is for you if you would like anything. This is our guest hat. I need to restock it.
Hat. Nice.
It was pretty full and had some pretty good stuff in it, and then Ellie found it. Welcome to episode 5 of Just Add Water. It's been a nice little break. Today we have Kasey, and she was up till 2 a.m. with anxiety about being on here. So, I always start with just people's testimony, which that's what you have experienced. You're like, oh boy.
Yes.
So we're going to jump right in to what you were worried about, basically.
The whole shebang.
Caboodle. Huh? Yes, exactly. So what would you say is and some people just give the briefest and some people give it in detail. So whatever you feel like sharing. What is your testimony?
Okay. I don't think you could get it all if I didn't make it a little bit detailed.
Yeah.
Because if I did it in short, you're going to be like, excuse me.
You're going to be like, wait a minute.
Be like, wait.
There's some pieces missing there.
Wait a minute. So I grew up the first 13 years of my life in Boston.
I didn't know that.
I did, yeah. My parents.
You don't have the Boston, like...
No, when you come to Arkansas as
we rub off on
Yankee, no, you change real quick or you get like stood up in front of class like
did you just say pop? It's soda, thank you.
Yeah, don't pack the car.
Pack the car.
We're not packing the car.
Well, there you go then.
So I grew up in Boston to two heroin addicted parents. It's a big thing in Boston. You know, down here they have like a methamphetamine crisis.
Yeah.
Up there it's heroin.
It's heroin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big thing.
You don't think about it being like different. Like you just think of it as like drugs. You don't think of it as like this drug is more prominent here.
There is though, and I always tell people I'm like up in Boston it's Pepsi, mayonnaise, and heroin.
Yeah.
And down here it's Dr. Pepper.
Yep.
Mustard.
Yep.
And
like
that's
go Arkansas.
Yes, that is the big difference. So I have a brother that is 5 years older than me. We share a mom. And then I have two younger sisters, one that's 16 months younger than me and one that's 5 years younger than me, and she's deaf.
The 5 years?
The 5 year younger.
So do you know sign language?
I do. I'm fluent in sign language, yes.
Will you teach me sign language?
I will.
That's my life. It's on my bucket list. For
really?
Yes. I know
Wyatt's taking sign language as his
at school
language. Yeah.
I tried. There's a 2-year waiting list, and I didn't have an opening until my
I hate that there's a
year.
2-year waiting list. You know that even the simple how to spell letters,
I know
deaf community can completely understand.
I know my letters and I know random words.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can pick up some things, and I could like if I was trying to tell somebody something in sign language, I could probably make it make sense. Yeah. But it's not like I'm not fluent, but I want to be so
You would be so good at it because it's all about facial expressions.
Are you saying I'm an expressive person?
Yes.
Well, thank you.
You're like me. We're like,
yeah, you got the eyebrows, man. It's the eyebrows.
Yes.
Sorry, that was a sidetrack, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I grew up in Boston, like I said. Both of my parents were heroin addicts. Back in the 90s when I grew up, I know a long time ago. I'm so old. My kids are going to watch this and be like, she's ancient.
90s. Back
in the 90s. Child Protective Services wasn't something that was very prominent, especially up in those communities. They came in, every so often to make sure that you were still alive, and that was it.
Yeah.
So the first 5 years of my life, my brother had a friend's family, and he would go stay with them. Mm-hmm. So it was me and the sister that is 16 months younger than me.
Gotcha.
Until my youngest sister was born, and that's when things kind of changed. But from I was 2, I can remember staying home alone at 2. And then until I was 5, we kind of bebopped around to different houses. We were homeless. We slept in people's basements. Basements are a big thing in Boston, so we slept in a lot of basements. And during that time, my parents put us into a Catholic after school. So my parents are big Italians and Catholics. They both have like 12 siblings apiece. Yeah. Big, huge, that like telltale Italian family. And after school was Catholic after schools. So to keep us out of trouble, they would put us into the Catholic after school, and that's where you went, and the nuns taught you about the Bible, and you did all of your learning all of your rosaries and your Hail Marys and what to do in Catholic Church, because it's very strict, you know.
Yeah, like confessions and
Yeah. And so we did a lot of that. So when my sister was born deaf is when we started having a teacher come in to teach us sign language. Neither one of my parents wanted to learn. It was just me. So I was 5, and the teacher would come in and she'd teach us, you know, sign language and what to do. And from when my sister was born up until we moved to Arkansas, we had a lot of outsiders kind of taking care of me and my sisters.
Yeah.
So gangs are a big thing, you know, and a lot of people see gangs as really bad. But where we come from, so
like
long
take
as
care
you
of your own
so
thing.
long as you live on the right side of the street, you're took care of. You know, they fed us, they made sure we were okay, they protected us, and that was just the way it was. You know, and so they taught me a lot of stuff. Then when my parents decided they were going to get clean, I was about 12, and they said we're going to move to Arkansas. My grandparents already lived in Arkansas.
Gotcha.
My grandpa, he had asbestos lung from working in it wasn't the Air Force back then, it was still part of the Army. Yeah. But he flew planes and he worked on them, and it gave him asbestos lung. Yeah. Which then gave him what is that called? Mesothelioma. And so he had to move from...
I feel so bad that, you know, the commercial, if you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma. That just popped in my head when you said that. I'm sorry.
That's the commercial I played in my head to remember what the name was. So it's okay.
What does your grandpa have? If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
So they already lived in Arkansas. So my parents moved us when I was 12 to Arkansas, and that is a huge culture shock.
Yeah, oh, I bet.
So I lived in the concrete jungle, and they moved us to this little town.
To the real jungle.
Yeah, they moved us to this little town in Conway called Caney Creek. It's out way past the stockyard in Conway. It's like, I feel like it's the trailer park of trailer parks of Conway. Yeah. Like way out in the boonies. And I had always believed, you know, until I found God, that the only way to get love was to perform tasks, you know. My dad wouldn't love me unless I watched my sisters or unless I cleaned the house. And then, you know, I was told if I didn't do certain stuff that I was not loved. You know, a lot of things are, you have to go downstairs.
You have to earn it.
Yes. And that's the way I felt like love was, is you had to earn it. So during, you know, when I was in Catholic school, you had to earn God's love. And that was through the preacher. I don't think they're called preachers in Catholicism. It's a priest. You have to call him father. He calls you daughter. That's really messed up to me. Yeah. It's really weird to me.
You're not my dad.
Yeah. And so, you know, I would always learn that we had to go downstairs. We had to tell our confessions, and you had to have a confession every day, regardless of whether you thought you did something wrong or not. When you're a kid,
did you ever just like, I don't know what I did, so you just make up?
Yes.
Which is so weird because you have to lying, which is
so you're walking downstairs, and it's very dark, and it's very like weird. It's down in a basement of the Catholic Church, and you walk into this cubicle. Have you ever seen one?
I've seen them in like movies. I don't know how accurate that is.
It's very accurate.
Oh, okay.
They're on this side, and they're closed in, and you're on this
side.
There's
like a window or something.
Sliding. Yeah. He's here. So you sit here and you say, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." And he opens it, and he says, "Tell me, child, what have you done?" And you have to say something. So we
that feels cultish. I'm sorry. I don't do strict rules. Like, that would make me so uncomfortable.
It was very cultish, but when you're in it, you don't realize. Right. And I'm not downing any type of religion or anything like that. I'm just saying, for me,
they probably think some of our stuff feels
and weird. For me, it was not love, you know. So you tell them you've sinned. I have whatever you make up that day, because when you're a kid, you don't always think you do something bad. Yeah. Especially when you don't have parents over you, you know. And you tell them, and they're like, "Okay, go upstairs and do 5 Hail Marys." So then you have to go upstairs and do your Hail Marys. And if you don't do your Hail Marys right, the nuns are standing there.
What are those?
So you take your rosary and you go, "Hail Mary, Mother of God." You know, you have to do you know how the kids pray after basketball? Yeah. It's like those. Oh, okay. And you have to do them on the rosary. So you have to hold your rosary and you have to count, "Hail Mary, Mother of God, forgive me for I have sinned." and you do that 5 times, and that's the only time you can be forgiven by God.
And they change like the numbers, like go do 5, go do
depending on what your sin was, and which prayer you had to do. You know, you had your Hail Marys, you had your.
So it's like we have like the Lord's Prayer, but there's like different ones in the Catholic, and you have to memorize them all.
And a lot of them are you're praying to Mary for forgiveness more than you're asking God for forgiveness, because she is very holy. She's sanctified in the Catholic Church.
I knew they had like Mother Mary was prominent.
It's very it's
I didn't know they like prayed to her for forgiveness. That was interesting.
Yeah, and so you do your Hail Marys, but anyways, I think I got off track.
It's okay, I'm learning. I'm interested.
So we moved to Arkansas, and we were out in way off wherever, and my thing was that I was desperate to feel loved. I had never felt like a big love in my heart. So I had an empty hole, and I now know that needed to be filled with God.
Yeah.
But when you're younger, so I was 13 and 14, I was filling it with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
So I overdosed twice by the age of 14.
Wow.
Suicide was a big thing for me. I tried multiple times because I was just desperate.
Yeah.
I just want to be loved.
Yeah.
I just want somebody to notice me. And if that meant that I went to the hospital and they noticed me and I got some attention and it turned into this, okay, somebody sees me. Somebody sees me.
But then it's like it wears off, because it's like as soon as you're better, they forget. And then,
And so it was a never-ending cycle. I was very much, and this is weird now that I'm a nurse, but I was very much into pill popping. You took downers after taking uppers. You took uppers to feel better, then you took downers to sleep at night, because your parents don't need to know.
Yeah.
And when you're in that cycle, it's very easy to hide from parents that already barely noticed you were there.
Yeah.
They had sent my younger sister, Courtney, who's the deaf one, off to Arkansas School for the Deaf at this point. They stay all week. So they stay from Monday through Friday.
They come home on the weekend.
They come home on the weekend, and then they're gone again. So that was a great excuse for my parents to not have any responsibility.
Yeah.
I took care of Kaylee, who's my middle sister. They left my brother in Boston. So when we moved here, he stayed in Boston with the friend's family. When we moved here. And so that was a big thing, we were able to just do what we wanted to. So I had a friend that was also into drugs with me, and her biggest thing to get away from her family was to tell them she was going to this program called Young Life. So in Conway, there is a youth group called Young Life. It's very Baptist associated.
It sounds like Zach goes to Perspective.
It's a lot like Perspective.
Yeah.
So they gather the teenage kids it was like Thursday night, I think it was. We gathered in this building in Conway, back behind the Walgreens, called Young Life. And they taught us the Bible in a more Baptist, God loves you type of way. And that was my excuse for every Thursday night to go get high. Yeah. Because my friends were there. And that's...
Did they actually went there? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we went there, and that was our excuse. And I remember my teacher, her name was Amy Gentry, and she was... I know.
Whoa.
I know.
Not the same Amy Gentry.
No. Her name was Amy Gentry. She was, at this point, I was 15, and I think she was 23 or 4. Very, very
close,
young. And she was there, and she kind of, I think, seen the pain, but she could also see my purpose, kind of like what I needed to be. She could see that I had potential, so she would always come over. And I remember the last time that I overdosed, we were heading to a youth trip in Little Rock. We were on the bus. We stopped at Wendy's to eat. I overdosed in the parking lot. Didn't mean to, but it happened, and that's what saved my life. Yeah. Because Amy, she got into the ambulance with me. She sat with me at the hospital, and she told me, she said, Kasey, you have a purpose. You could be so much. Like, God loves you. And I'm like, yeah, God might love me, but what does he want in return? She's like, nothing. Yeah. He wants nothing. And I'm like,
I got chills, man.
I'm like, no, there's a catch.
There's a catch.
There's a catch. Like, my whole life had been catches at that point, Like, it's always been about what you did in return. You were never just to be loved. Yeah. And was something that was very hard for me. And I don't want other teenagers that were in the same spot to be like, I'm the only one that feels this way, because you're not.
No.
I was so ready for it.
Yeah.
Like there is a catch here.
Yeah.
So she was sitting in the hospital room with me, and she said, no, Kasey, like, you are loved and he loves you, and you have to do nothing in return. And I was like, you're a liar, but okay,
whatever you say, Amy.
And she said, let me tell you something. She said, if you get clean and you quit, I will pay for you to go to Vacation Bible School. During the summer, there was a 1-week program at Vacation Bible School, and you went, and I was like, I don't know, Amy. And she was like, no, just please.
Once. Just
once. Just stay off the drugs, drop these friends, listen to me this one time, and I promise you your life will be changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I still to this day, I thank her,
Mm-hmm.
she changed my life. But we went to Vacation Bible School, and I showed up, and all these people were just happy I was there.
Yeah.
They were, hugging is very weird to me. I don't like it, but I've learned to do it because I have 3 kids.
Yeah, right. I mean, at that point you have kids, it's like you're a hugger now.
Yeah, and when you're a Baptist, you're a hugger.
Yes.
Everybody is a hugger.
Hugs and food. That's what we do.
Yes, hugs and food.
Yes.
And so I showed up, and everybody was just glad I was there. And we would sing even songs that weren't Christian songs. We sung Brown Eyed Girl one night after dinner, and that was like, what?
Just fun.
Yeah, it was just fun, and everybody loved me, and everybody was praising God, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get to this catch part.
Yeah.
Okay, so
wait for it.
I'm 3 days in, and I'm asking everybody, I'm like, okay, you're saved, what's the catch?
Yeah.
They're like, literally nothing. And I'm like, well, you don't know what I've been through. Next. Like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've been given, the
you
golden
just
spoon.
have, like, the great life.
Next, yes. Yeah. And I happened upon an older gentleman that was there as one of the counselors.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, let me tell you, he said, I watched my mom overdose as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I felt his pain because I had walked in with my mom with various overdosing stuff. And he said, God literally loves you no matter what you've done. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, you don't understand. Like, I've done really bad stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a really bad person. He's like, no. Like I told you on that text, I was like, I don't want y'all to know the sort before saved me. And you said, no, your slate's wiped clean.
Yeah.
And that's almost word for word what he told me.
Yeah.
He said, no, literally, you don't, nobody looks at that part of you. If anything, it makes you relatable to somebody that needs to know that, God is the answer. So I got saved that day, that night at our little bonfire. I got saved, and it was not easy. And my journey was not easy. Yeah. I don't want people to think that once you're saved, like, everything's great.
I feel
rainbows.
like that's a misconstrued, like, you get saved and all of a sudden, all of the stuff you struggled with before is just gone.
It's gone.
And that's not the case. Like, your sin is gone. Like, it's wiped clean, but you still have that temptation there. And that's what me and Zach try to instill with the youth, because, like, we've had 2 or 3 that have made decisions, and we're like, look, this is great. You're on a Jesus high, but you realize when you go back to school, those friends are going to be doing the same stuff. You're going to be tempted to say the same thing. Like, you have to take steps to change your life.
And not just that, but when you come from a situation where you have been told your whole life over and over, you're not worthy, in the back of your mind, no matter what's going good, it's like, I'm not worthy of this.
Yeah. It's like you have to change your whole entire, mind.
Like, you have to change your whole... And I'm 36. I got saved when I was 15. Yeah. And I still, to this day, struggle. Like I told you, I stayed up till 2 a.m. anxious because in the back of my head, it's like, now they're going to see you different. Yeah. How dare you?
But see, I think, I think the coolest thing about talking about people's testimonies is we all have the same concern of people are going to find, if they find out I did this, and then, but then, like, on the flip side, if you think, like, because I could say the same thing, even growing up, like, in church with happily married parents, and, like, there's things that I've done or thought or said that, like, I'm like, if people found out that I did that, they'd be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like they would think completely different of you.
If I flip it and I'm like, you're talking about that, my mindset is automatically like, no, because to me, finding out all the things you did and then you got saved, it's almost like the worst that it was before you got saved, it's like the more God saved you from, it's
Mhm.
just, it's more cool. You know what I mean?
Well, and
Which
it makes
sounds
you
weird, but
and it makes you stronger in your faith.
yes.
Because when you realize that God loves you unconditional, that was a big thing to me. Is
Yeah.
that I am so unworthy in my eyes. I am unworthy, and my Father sees me. You know, God is my Father, and He sees me as worthy of dying on a cross.
Well, it's like that. It's like that parable where Jesus was talking about the like people that had debt, and like one person had like a little bit of debt and he was forgiven, and one person was like way in debt and he was forgiven. Like, who's going to be more thankful? The one that had more debt to forgive. And so same thing with like the more unworthy you feel at the beginning, the more like thankful and the more you like, the harder you love God, because it's like He saved you from so much more.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll tell you when my faith became the strongest. So when I was just turned 16, my dad was working at a construction crew and I was working at Sonic. And
no, Sonic, that's like always the first time job in
I worked
Arkansas.
at Rally's first, and then somebody was like, the tips, Kasey,
The tips.
Sonic. So then I went to Sonic in Conway, and one night my dad showed up for a slush, and he had this he had an afro, he had a long beard. It was Jordan. Yes, 19 years old.
Don't show Jordan my reaction to that.
He would understand.
I'm sorry.
Okay? No, he would understand because
Not
listen,
that afro.
he did not realize he was going to meet me.
Yeah.
So my dad, who was talking about his daughters over at, hold on.
Mom mode activated. So Jordan worked with your dad?
Yes, my dad worked on the construction crew that Jordan's oldest brother, he's one of 4 boys, owns.
Gotcha.
Okay. So my dad would talk about, I got 3 daughters, and Jordan was just messing with him like, oh, Dan, let me meet your daughters. Let me meet your daughters.
Come on, Dan, bring them out.
Yeah, so my dad brought him to Sonic one day, and he had like this big afro. He had a big, long beard, and I'm like, ugh. And he didn't tip me, and I made sure to make that like prominent. Because I was like,
red flag.
Yeah, I was like, Dad, is your friend going to tip me? And then I guess he swears to this day he was going to tip me, but I left in my little prancy, like...
Sure, Jordan.
Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure.
Like, okay. So the next day after school, I show up and there's this clean shave.
Oh, no.
Clean haircut. I thought it was 2 different men. I thought...
You're like, that's not the same one.
I thought, oh my gosh, my dad's trying to sell me. Like, at this point, I'm like, how many people do you have on this construction crew to sell me to? I'm like, what? Well, Jordan comes from...
How cute. He's like, oh, I gotta look nice and pretty for this girl.
Yes, he shaved. He had a clean haircut. He went and bought him some new clothes.
Wow.
Some jeans.
He had
I was
a
like,
crush on you.
I knew the minute I seen him, I was like, I'm going to marry this man.
Oh,
just
that's
wait.
so
like,
cute.
I'm going to marry this man. And we went on dates, but he comes from a, you know, the Church of God, like the praising hands in the air, like
Pentecostal?
no, it's different than Pentecostal. It's
the
Church
same
of
level
God,
of...
same level.
Gotcha.
Of, yes, that is Jordan's mom.
Okay.
And she led me to God. Well, you know, I was saved, but I started learning from the Bible from her.
Like growing.
Yes, growing, and I felt so much love from Jordan and his mom and his dad that it was like, oh my gosh, you know, this is great.
This is what it's supposed to be.
Yes. 6 months later, I was pregnant.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, so I knew Jordan for about 6 to 8 months when we got pregnant with Emmett. We got married in June of that year, and I never knew how I would be as a mother.
Mm-hmm. You never do until you are.
Yeah, because touchy-feely is very awkward to me. Mm-hmm. I don't like hugs. I don't like feeling.
Were you the pregnant lady that like people are like, oh, touching the belly, and you're like, get off me?
Yes, I don't like, one, that's an invasion of my space.
Yeah.
I don't have problems with that anyways.
Yeah.
Because of past stuff, like, you don't come in my bubble.
Yes.
Like, this is my bubble for a reason.
Yeah.
Don't.
That's so funny because now you have like, I can think of off the top of my head 4 girls because of faith that are all like,
yes.
Mama Kasey.
Yes. Well,
it's like your bubble has been popped. Like
the boys are like it too, and I wouldn't change it for anything. But that was, you know, God grew me in that point to be who I am today. he led
He
me.
can take. I'm telling you, he can take anything and use it to grow your faith.
Well,
It's incredible.
And I feel like I was never going to be a nurse.
Yeah.
That grossed me out.
Yeah.
But I feel like he led me there.
Mm-hmm.
I have been able to, it's easier for me to say my testimony to older people.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, because they'll be like, what are you here for? What do you even want with me? And I'm like, now let me tell you here, like, God sent me here for a reason.
Yeah.
So what do you need?
Yeah. You tell me, why am I here?
Yeah, exactly. And I figure that's about all of my testimony, you know.
That's incredible, though.
Thanks.
That's awesome. And I did not know that your dad totally set you and Jordan up.
He did.
So
he did.
funny.
To this day, he wants me to thank him.
Yeah.
You know, my mom passed away 13 years ago from breast cancer.
Yeah.
And my dad lives in Boston again, and he calls me, and we're better now. You know, he's better.
Yeah.
He's a better person now.
Do you keep in touch with your brother that
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I get it. When I was 16 and pregnant, my parents up and moved my sisters to Florida, and I was left here with Jordan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get where my brother's coming from, but it has
where you're
caused...
like, stay where it's better for you.
Yeah, but it's caused a rift in me and my sisters, you know, because a lot of times they're like, how dare you guard us from that?
Yeah.
You know, especially after my mom died.
Yeah.
They didn't know half of her story because I guarded them from it.
Yeah.
It wasn't for them
But
to
that's
know.
the older, like,
Mm-hmm.
they don't get it because they're younger. Like, had they been in that situation, they would.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I do keep in contact with him.
Awesome.
He served in the Army for years. He now runs the VA benefit department in Boston.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's an awesome person. I love him.
Awesome. So this is actually a nice segue because we've talked about, like, you got saved at 15, but you started growing when you met Jordan's parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't actually know, were you guys members of a church before you joined Lone Star?
We were never members of a church,
But you just kind of...
we have bebopped between a lot of churches to find our home, and we've always come back here. So when you and Zach were very, very little, wee little things, we actually came. I think it was Brother Ron.
Brother Rondell.
Yeah. We were here for a while then. When my mom died, it was a big test of my faith.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that led me more to be like, anytime the kids woke up or Jordan woke up and they're like, we don't want to go to church, I'm like, good, because me either.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to sit on the couch.
Just want to stay home.
Yeah.
It's the weekend.
Yeah.
That's such an easy trap to fall into.
Yes.
I've grown up in church and I find myself struggling with that, especially being a mom. Like, that is
the hardest, because when you're sitting there and you're waking them up and you're like, hold on.
Yeah.
I swear my kids need me for everything. They don't know how to
Speaking
function.
of being a mom.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I was telling Jake and Hannah last night, because I was struggling to make myself come to church last night, which I didn't feel too good last night. I'm fine now. But it's so hard as a mom, especially with Isaiah being young, to come on Sunday nights specifically, because there's no nursery, because there's not, like, Isaiah's the only baby there.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to tell yourself, go to church, make sure Isaiah's in church on Sunday nights, because from the mom side of it, like, I know it's important to make sure he knows, go to church, but from the mom side of it, it's like, why would I go to church on Sunday night when I know he's going to get fussy and I'm just going to end up playing with him in the nursery and not getting anything out of church because I'm in the nursery, when I could just stay home and play with him, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so, but it is important to, like, but I totally get, that's where I was going with that. I get, even growing up in church, I get the temptation to just almost find an excuse not to go to church.
You
like,
actively seek out excuses.
Yeah, I get it.
Like,
yeah.
And the thing is that you're gonna make it for Isaiah a way I didn't for my kids, because I let them feed into those excuses.
Yeah.
So now anytime you don't see a kid with me at church, it's because they have found an excuse, especially my eldest.
Yeah.
So my middle and my youngest, they're all about it. Let's go.
Yeah.
But my oldest, he's into that. He will find an excuse.
Yeah.
To get
well,
out
and it's not
time.
it's not me being smart, feeding into Isaiah, telling him he needs to go. That's all my parents. Because if it hadn't been for my parents doing that for me, I probably wouldn't be doing it for Isaiah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a them thing. Good for them, because we were very much like, if the church doors are open, you will be there. Like, you have to. Like, I broke my toe and I was like on crutches. And Dad was like, "You're going." I broke it the day before, and he was like, "You're fine."
But aren't you so grateful that
I am. I really am.
Because then it breaks that cycle in your own mind of like, Isaiah's fussy today, and he's cutting his back molars, and all I'm gonna do is disrupt everybody else trying to listen to the preaching.
I even had Eddie last night. Isaiah got a little fussy at church, and that's the first time I haven't just taken him back, because Homer's been telling me every Sunday night specifically is because that's when I'm out there with him. And I'll take him back, and Homer's like, "Quit." He's like, nobody is mad that he's making a sound, but to
Wednesday nights we love it.
I know, but
Isaiah runs down the pews, and it's great.
But to me, I'm like, I don't want him to distract other people. But But then last night,
we're all moms too.
I know. But then last night, I kept him out there, and Eddie was, I guess, made a face or something when he was getting fussy, because Eddie was like, "Don't you worry when he starts fussing, like, it ain't bothering us." And I was like, okay, like, that helps when people are constantly like, we're not thinking anything of it.
Yes.
And it's different too, because there's been babies in the church before I had Isaiah, and I was easily on the side of, oh, like, that's not distracting at all. It's like more like, oh, good to hear a baby. But then when it's yours and you're like, shh, stop, sit down.
Yeah. Please be quiet. Please be quiet. 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes.
He last night, oh my gosh, Homer wrapped up his sermon. Austin put his jacket on too soon. In the middle of Homer wrapping up, Isaiah goes, "Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye." I was like, shh. Like, we have to pray still. So then, of course, Homer calls on Austin to pray to dismiss us. And Isaiah's, Daddy, bye-bye. I'm like,
that's great though. I love it. Yeah, so we bounced between lots of churches. Jordan grew up in a little bitty town called Alco. He went to school in Timbo, graduating class of 12.
Oh, lovely.
Yes. So big churches have never been for him.
Yeah.
So we have tried all of them, but we kept circling back to Lone Star.
So
every time it would call us back.
Yeah. So that was one of my questions, is why Lone Star? Like, what about Lone Star?
Every time we came in the doors, it was never a "where have you been?" It's like, "I missed you."
Yeah.
Like, welcome back.
Instead of grilling you.
Yeah, it was like, I'm so glad y'all are back. Yeah. Like, we've missed you,
Yeah. Like, we do. I have to say, we have a great greeting.
Yes.
And it's all I think the captain of our greeting team should be Miss Norma.
Norma is like, she's
like
tier one of welcoming. Okay,
for a here's my personal space person, Norma.
No,
it's not for you.
But I needed that.
I
needed that to grow.
Top level Baptist hugger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's the one. And I told Hannah, because Caleb and Haley joined, Sunday.
I'm so glad.
And so I looked over, and Norma was like, hugging them, and I was like, well, they're officially part of Lone Star now, because they've got the Norma hug. So they're in. But yeah, we do have and that makes me proud of our church, because I grew up here, and so
you've always felt welcome.
I've never got the experience of visiting a church. I've never gotten the experience of, like, that's why I like to ask why Lone Star, because I don't. Like, what makes us special? I don't know. I've always been here.
You've always been
here. But that
seems
seems like the revolving thing, is that we just have a welcoming group of people, which is awesome to hear. That makes me proud to be a part of it.
I have seen, just since me and Jordan have been coming regularly again, we have grown.
We have. Look,
oh my gosh, we have grown in not the older generations and not the ones with little babies. We've gotten a couple of those.
In the middle.
The middle.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to find.
Yes.
And very hard to get, is that middle. We have teenagers. They're rough.
Yeah.
Isaiah's easy at this point.
Yeah.
Count them fussings is easy.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
Well, because that is one thing growing up here, you see and I was young when we went through a time where there wasn't a lot of growth, and actually there was a lot of like, I don't want to say we were fighting, but there was a lot of disagreement, there was a lot of division. And so it's incredible to see how even with that, the core of Lone Star has stayed so faithful. And at this point, I'm basically talking about like my parents' generation and like the ones above them, because they're the ones that led our church through it. Well, I say led. They were the ones that stayed faithful to God and got us through it. Yeah. Because it would have been easy for the church to split, for us to disagree with each other.
And just be done.
Yeah. But it's incredible to see how when you stay faithful to God, He'll bring that increase. So like, I grew up with the same like 5 people doing VBS. Then we went through that division and we were faithful, and God brought us Bart and Vicky. And it was like the growth exploded. So we went back to a ton of kids on Wednesday night because they started Wednesday night programs back up. And VBS became a massive thing. And that's actually where like me, Hannah, Sarah, Zach, Jake, Austin, like our friend group came from Bart at VBS, basically being like, you guys are now in charge of the play. And just shoving us together. So like that exploded, and then it was like everything was going well. Kind of came as a shock when he called Bart somewhere else, because to us it was like, everything's going good, now you're gonna take away our pastor. But then you stay faithful. Okay, God's got a plan. He brought us Homer and Amy, and it's again like explosion of we went from having 2 regular youth to 9 on Wednesday nights.
A bunch on Wednesday
and then
nights.
we have, and that's just the regulars. We have like up to 12, 13 that will every once in a while mix in. We went from no youth on Sunday mornings to,
we've got an entire, they could fill up a pew.
I know, like there's one, if all of them that come pretty regularly came on the same Sunday, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Well, actually, that's not even right, because I didn't even count. It'd be more like 14 or 15.
That's what I was thinking. We could fill up an entire pew if they sat like.
Amazing. And like you said, it's a large part of that is because God has, I don't know. I have no idea what has got us to all of a sudden, like, reaching the middle-aged, like, family group.
It's great,
but like,
because that needed to be.
I know. Well, that's what see from like a visitor point of view. It was like the Messers joined, and then you guys joined, and then Caleb and Haley joined, and we've had a couple others that have joined, and it's
the
like
Moros are coming all
holy
the time.
crap! Yes, like it's like, what is happening? Like, we're not complaining, and then you think about,
do you know, without Homer, we wouldn't have come regularly.
He's a special guy.
Homer was able to meet Jordan on a level of, I come from a little town, I like to fish, I like to hunt.
That about Homer.
And the first time Homer preached, Jordan was like, I like this. Like,
He's
we need
very-
to come back, because, you know, the man has to lead the family to a church, and they have to be, I know a lot of people think, you know, I'm all about women are very strong.
Yeah.
But in a family, if the dad and the husband is not the leader in your walk with God.
Yeah. Have you seen the statistics of, it's like if a mom comes to Christ, there's like a
20%, 30% chance.
Yeah, I think their kids will, but if the dad does, it's like 80%. Yeah, like dads are, there's a reason that's God's plan, is the dad leads. And I agree. I'm a very, like, Austin makes fun of me because I'm a very, like, take no crap, this is how it works kind of person. But at the same time, like, you do have to submit to the man, and the man, it's his job to lead. And so, yeah. But I love that about Homer. He's very, Homer, if you're watching, do not take this the wrong way. He's very non-preachery. You know what I mean?
He's relatable.
Yes. He's like, he is a preacher, he's a pastor, but he's very good at showing he's a human. He's just like you. He has the same interests. Like, you don't want to talk about, you know, the preacher, you don't want him to get all up on your case about God and, you know, are you saved? That's fine. He'll go fishing with you. He'll fix your car. And is he going to work Jesus into? Yes. But you can relate to him. I love, you know, people that they're like, I don't have something nice to wear to church. I'm like, our pastor preaches in blue jeans. Like,
Yeah.
it's not
Yes.
that big a deal.
Oh, I'm like that with all of my kids' friends. We have a big epidemic in Greers Ferry of teenagers that don't have a mother in their life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big thing right now. They're being raised by grandparents, or
Yes,
they're raising
grandparents
themselves.
Grandparents are very prominent. From the teacher side of things, the amount of times I go to email or something or call.
And it's a grandparent. Yes. So when they come to my house, I'm very much, that's why they all call me Mama K. Like every one of them. I love.
Everybody needs a Mama K.
Yeah. And when it comes to teenagers, like, that's my job.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, like,
you got the same sarcastic, like,
yes.
snap back.
Yes.
Oh, so Homer was a big one for, and then, so what's it like to join as an adult?
I think it was very easy to join.
Really?
Yeah. I was worried about stepping on toes. Like on Wednesdays, I like to clean, you know, like that's my thing. So I like to clean the mess hall where they all eat, you know, and I was very afraid to step on the older ladies' toes. And so I would go to clean and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Is it okay if I do this? And they're like, we appreciate everything.
Like,
do
those dishes.
Yes,
do those dishes.
Do those dishes. Sweep that floor. Thank you. My back hurts.
That's actually, my third question was about finding a place to serve.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things to tell, like when people ask about our church growing, to me, yes, it's great when people join the church. It's great when they get baptized. It's even better when they start serving, because that's almost like, now you know they're going to come. Now you know they're in. And so like you help with the kitchen. What else do you help do?
The nursery and youth.
So why those places?
The kitchen, because I'm very much a Southern woman, you know, to cook and to serve
just naturally
children, just naturally. I love it. I would serve adults, you know. My place is serving, and that's, you know, same with my nursing. Like I serve these people and I love it. The nursery is, I love the smaller.
You need the baby time.
Yes,
everybody needs the baby time.
And everybody's different. I can do 5 crying, screaming babies.
Yeah.
I can't do 5 crying 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
You know, like everybody's different.
When they're older and they should know better. I'm kind of there with you. I'm there with you.
When they're old, like that's not my place for me. And people that have more patience, like go for it. I have all the patience in the world for 5 crying 5-month-olds.
Yeah.
Not 5 crying 6-year-olds.
There's a reason I'm a high school teacher.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, you're so young. You should be elementary. I'm like, you do not want me in a room with your elementary kids that are spoiled rotten. Like, I'm too mean for that.
When I was at parent-teacher conferences, I was actually talking about that with Mr. He wears the cowboy hat.
Mr. West.
West. Yes. Yes, Mr. West.
Oh,
we were
Mr.
talking
West.
about the 8th grade class. I was like, no, more power to you, Mr. West, not for me. And then I do the youth because, you know, I got 4 teenagers. So we have Emmett is 18. He graduates this year. Wyatt is 16. And Faith will be 14 in 11 days. She kept count. I know exactly
She
what
makes
day.
sure you knew.
Yes. And then we actually took in Emmett's girlfriend, Sarah, who comes from a very similar situation as mine when I was younger. And so we were able to keep, you know, bring her in and
be that. What you needed, now you get to be. Another God thing, I'm telling you.
Yes, I get to bring her. And she absolutely loves y'all's youth.
She is. I'm always excited when she's here.
Yes.
On Wednesdays especially. She was so funny last Wednesday. They had Cokes, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we're not supposed to have Cokes down here because everything is nice, and of course all the youth had Cokes.
Yeah.
And Dad comes in and he goes, "What are y'all doing with Cokes?" And she goes, and just sets it down. It was so funny. She was like, "What Coke? I don't have Coke."
Wasn't me? And I'll tell you, when I really felt like I was fitting in was our Branson trip.
Oh, extreme. Nothing like extreme winter to make you.
I have never been to anything like that in my entire life. And seeing Ellie, like I cried last Sunday when she sang.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Only because we were there.
I know.
We watched her transform over that weekend.
Yes.
Where she was kind of hesitant. And then all of a sudden on that one night.
Yes. I can remember watching her. She was like sitting like this. And I was like, oh, she's going to go. She's going to do it. She's going to do it.
So, yeah, she's back.
She's like, yeah.
She's forward. And then when she stood up, I was like, yes, Thank you, God,
Yes.
because I could see it working with her all weekend. And that's when I said, oh my gosh, like this is where I belong. Like I love this.
That's where you really, really get your buy-in. Like it's great when you serve. Like it's so important to serve because you've got to find a place to fit in where you feel like you're important in the church.
Yes.
But you get your buy-in when you see the results. And it's and that's what like I can think Carrie has been my girl, right? Like I've known Carrie since she was itty bitty and she came to church her whole like little growing up elementary age.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. Like I was there when she was saved. I was there when she was baptized. She started coming to church on Sunday mornings. I picked at her and picked at her and picked at her. And I finally, my birthday was on a Sunday. I said, for my birthday, I want you to come to church. And she has not missed a Sunday unless she's sick since. Yeah. And so like Carrie's the one for me where I can see that buy-in. Now she's got like, she has friends that she hangs out with and they come to church regularly. She's bringing somebody right now that has never been to our church before she started coming with Carrie. So like, yeah, that buy-in of seeing the results of, and just knowing you were a tiny part of it is incredible. And so then like, yeah, when we were there, when Ellie got saved, we got to talk to her and now she's singing in church and it's
cried and wept like a baby.
I know.
And I'm glad I wasn't alone because Miss Teresa, I'm sorry.
Oh, mom
she was sitting over there with her mom.
Yeah.
And she's like sobbing.
Had
and
like the
it's
tissue.
Okay. Yeah. It's okay that I'm sobbing right now because
I made fun of Mom because when I knew that Caleb and Haley were going to go forward on Sunday because Hannah had children's church and she asked me if I could swap with her at the last minute so she could come out and see. So that's the only reason I knew it was going to happen. But I turned around when they started walking forward and I looked at Mom just to see her reaction. She was already crying. I was like, I was like, they haven't even made it to the aisle yet. You just like saw them twitch and you were like, but yeah, she's a boo-hooer. It's so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, so last thing that I thought we could talk about, which is we've talked a lot about you having teenagers and it being teenagers being the difficult. Parenting today
is hard.
Is next level. And I don't even know the half of it because I have a 1-year-old, so like he's not in school yet. He hasn't learned to repeat things that he hears on TV and so like what are some big fears and tips that you have for like parenting your kids in today's world?
I'll tell you, elementary school wasn't hard.
As bad?
Yeah, that was easy. They all still want to play, unicorns and dinosaurs and race around.
Which probably is not the case now.
Yeah, Gracelyn and Faith literally acted like unicorns up until like
those two have been tied together ever since I knew them.
Yeah, because they live right there.
Yeah.
So Gracie and Faith.
It took me forever to figure out which was which because in my mind, I don't know why Gracie should have been Faith. I guess it's because when I was younger, I was blonde.
Yeah.
It took me forever. But yeah, they are like.
Yes. So then you hit middle school. And I'll tell you what's really hard right now is that luckily we live in Groves Ferry and that's great and I'm glad I get to raise my kids here because if you go just a little bit further south like Greenbrier and Conway, they are completely embracing this. You can be whatever gender you want to be.
Yeah.
You can do what you want. They have litter boxes in bathrooms for kids to be cats or dogs. That would be a lot harder. So I'm grateful to God that this is where we made our home.
We have a very conservative, very Christian school.
Yes, which
it's amazing.
Is amazing because I took my kids back to Boston to spread my mom's ashes, and my kids don't even know how to use a crosswalk. Okay, they're like, you got to do what? Wait for what?
They're like, why do we have to walk on these lines?
Like, I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to buy our house when I was 18. Like, we've lived in that same house.
Yeah.
We're from off. So when everybody's like, oh, do you know something? It's like, no, honey. Unless they've been my patient, I know nothing.
Yeah.
But child-wise, I can see how it would be very difficult for a newly Christian mom or dad to then change.
Yeah.
Their way with their kids. So luckily I was saved before I had kids, which really helped.
I think for kids what's confusing is the rules. And so, like, if you raise them with cussing's fine, you know, like, love all these people, and which, yes, you should love everybody, but, like, it's fine to be whatever the world says you want to be in. And then getting saved and switching it, the kids don't understand. They're like, why all of a sudden can I not cuss? Like, why all of a sudden are we...
Well, and it's like that if you don't take your kids to church all the time. That's a place that I faltered as a mom, is that my kids did not have to go to church every Sunday or Wednesday, you know.
But thankfully yours are, like, Wyatt is above and beyond.
They have completely embraced.
They're all for church. Wyatt is like button down white shirt on church. I'm like, oh, he's like dressing for the Lord. Like he
has had a complete change in the last year, though. Like he has went from not caring and having certain friends to dropping certain friends, and now his future is very important to him. Yeah, you know. So there's a big change in that, and it's just that. You know, I'd like to say it's because I nag him so much. Moms nag. Yeah. Sorry.
It's what we do.
It's what we do.
It's our job.
We nag. So tips for today is to just talk to the kids. If they feel like you're constantly preaching at them, they're kids. You remember being a teenager. I remember being a teenager. You don't know nothing I don't already know.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So if you're not stooping down to their level and being like, listen, let me just explain it to you. Let me tell you that, yes, so-and-so gets to vape or fight all the time or do whatever they're doing. Vaping is a big problem at Cruiseferry. It is a huge problem.
I'm a school teacher of teenagers. You are not telling me anything I don't know.
It is such a big problem. And it's like, let me just tell you the health side of it, because I do a lot of health side of it. You know, I show them people coughing after popcorn lung because popcorn lung is big with vaping. Yeah. You know, and you just have to stoop down and explain, because once they know the explanation behind it, you can't force them to do anything.
Yeah.
All you can hope is that you've explained it in a way that they're going to wrap their heads around and be like, oh, you're right.
Yes. And I think specifically for parenting teenagers, because when they're young, to an extent, no, just trust me, I said so works. When they're teenagers, no. Like, at that point, if they don't understand why you're telling them not to or to do something,
they want an explanation.
They almost just decide, well, I'm not going to listen because she won't give me an explanation. And so you've got to explain to a degree. You have to explain. So, I mean, and if you, for me personally, my dad and mom both, but really my dad was the disciplinarian. And so he trained us up like, because I said so was like the rule. And it wasn't just him, it was adults. Like, if adults tell you to do something, you do it.
That's why a dad is so important.
Yes. And so I didn't have now he's going to tell you I'm lying, because I did question, but I always knew, like, listen to your parents. Like, you do what they say.
You respect your elders.
And to me, growing up, like, why don't you do this? Well, my parents wouldn't let me, was a perfectly reasonable explanation. It feels like nowadays it's not.
Nope.
And so you do, I feel like, have to explain it a little bit. Plus, they're old enough. When they reach teenage years, they're old enough to understand. Like, there's some things when they're little you can't explain to the kids, because they're not going to understand.
But past a certain point, they do. Yeah. And they feel more respected if you sit there and you tell them.
Well, and it's also important to understand the whys. Like, once you get older, I don't want... Isaiah's going to watch this in years and be like, ha! I don't want Isaiah to do what I say without questioning it when he gets older.
No, when he's little, to have their own.
Yeah. But like, to me, if you teach your kid always listen without an explanation, they're just going to become a follower. When they reach a certain age, you have to question things. Like, think about, like, if I still just did whatever I was told. I'm 23. Like, I'm old enough now to question things.
And you have your own kid.
Yes. So, like, there's an age where, and I feel like teenage years is where you, as a parent, start to explain things and be like, here's why. Like,
yes.
It's reasonable to ask why. Here's why.
You're not going to stop them from doing everything.
No.
There's no stopping them.
No.
But there is a way to build a relationship with your kids. Like, I can tell you my kids don't lie to me, and I know that for a fact. Like, they come to me about everything. Do I know where they went and what they did? Yes, because they told me.
Yeah.
And there's ways to go about it where they're not scared to ask you things. Yeah. They're not worried. Do I think it caused some attachment issues with faith, liberty, all that? Yes, I do. you're watching this, yeah, attachment issues.
She loves her mommy.
She won't do nothing without me. I love it though.
We had when we had Isaiah, we decided to adopt, when he gets older, of course he can't talk right now, but we decided to adopt something that Bart and Vicky did with their kids, because they did premarital counseling with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had talked about, in the family dynamic, they had the kitchen table. So they always made sure they ate together at the kitchen table.
We always eat.
And their thing was, kids knew, if you tell mom and dad at the kitchen table, it's a conversation. If mom and dad find out outside of the kitchen table, you're getting disciplined. And so they had that safe place, that safe time where they knew, I can tell them this, but I'm gonna have to own up to it right now. Because if they find out later, like, you lost your chance to be honest, now you're in trouble.
Yes.
And so we decided, when Isaiah gets old enough that he, can talk, and we want to do that, so that he it's just, I think it's good for them to know what to expect. And so that's my, like, I don't want to ever say anything bad about my parents, because they raised me, like, in my mind, perfectly. But that's one fear I remember as a kid is, I'll be honest, but am I going to get in, like, if they're in a bad mood, like, if they're in a bad mood, it doesn't matter that I was honest. Like, I'm in trouble, so maybe I just shouldn't say anything, and hopefully they don't find out.
But then when they find out, it's even worse.
Yes. And so, like, I think knowing, like, I can say this and they will not get mad at me, we'll just deal with it at the table, was what was so attractive of that to me in Austin.
And one big thing is having dinner at the kitchen table. Do you know?
Yeah.
I never had dinner at a kitchen table.
We did growing up, and then when we got older, we kind of, but yeah.
We have dinner every night at the kitchen table with our kids, every night. And that is our conversation time. That is our time to sit and talk about our day, what went on in our day. And
I love that.
I like the fact that, my kids now are very good. Emmett kind of went through a path of he kind of went through a swerve path to come back to his path here. And I know that during those times he was able to be like, yeah, Mom, I went and I drank, but I gave so-and-so my key, so I wouldn't drive. That is the biggest fear. Emmett has been to 4 friend funerals. 4. That is hard. Around here, they've very much adapted. And I'm not saying we live in a bad place. I love where we live.
Yeah.
But they're very much country.
Yeah.
Back road and driving those 4-wheelers as fast and as hard as they can, drinking while they do it.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
Yeah.
So having that time with your teenagers where they actually trust that you're not going to just absolutely blow up on them, that you're going to be like, okay, like, I'm proud of you for having the mind to give your keys to somebody else, and not doing anything that put your life in danger. Like, I'm proud of you for that. Yeah. Am I proud that you went drinking? No, but I get. I mean, stuff's gonna happen, and if they're more open to telling you, "Hey, Mom, like this went on,"
I'd rather that your teenagers are gonna make bad decisions.
Everyone is.
You would rather have the relationship with them that they can tell you than you find out a call from the cops, or a call from a friend that was with them or something.
Any parent that can sit there and say, my kid has never done anything.
Have you met your kid?
That's because they don't have that open line of communication.
Yeah.
You just don't. And that's essential in today's world, is to have that open line of communication. Like, I always say, my kids are my best friends. They don't know my testimony. They do now. But
surprise.
But I can honestly say, like, they know everything about me except, from Saved On.
Yeah, right.
From Saved On.
What do we call that? BC, BC
is
Kasey. Before Christ Kasey is what they don't know.
They don't know BC Kasey. Yeah. They know AC Kasey.
Yeah.
But now they know BC Kasey. But it's not something that I should be ashamed of. Because there's other teenagers that feel like they are in the same spot. And the thing is that teens are very much, they think that what they have going on, that they're the only person ever.
Yes.
Like, this is the worst thing ever. I'm the only person to ever feel this way. There's no way out of this unless I take myself out of
You
this.
don't get it. That's like the teen motto, is you don't get it.
Yeah, like teen suicide rates, I feel like if we had an open line of communication with teenagers that are like, listen, I know you feel like this is the end. That you are absolutely alone. But let me tell you about what I went through.
Yeah.
And that, yes, I feel the same way. And yes, I have scars from stuff that I've tried myself. And that's not the end, because there's a love that you don't know yet. Because the love of God, you know, to me, it's something that I never knew I was deserving. And every day I wake up and I'm like, thank you for loving me, BC.
Yeah.
God,
Right.
like, thank you for seeing that I have such an amazing purpose in life. And like, this is what I went through, BC, before Christ, before saving, is something that could lead me to helping other kids, you know, that could lead me to being able to reach out to them. And that's why I'm okay that Jake cornered you and told you I need to be on the podcast.
He's so mad he's not here also. I mean, so mad. He thought he had officially gotten his position as a co-host. I was like, listen, it's my podcast.
And second, I already told you, I would not be here if you were here, Jake. Yeah. If you're watching this, no.
Yeah. He's something.
Yes.
But he needs to be kept in like a lockbox sometimes.
Yes.
You know, like, this is your place.
Exactly.
Chill.
Yes.
I'm gonna get so many texts from him. What? No, why would you say that? I can just hear him.
Yes. But I appreciate you having me on.
Well, I'm glad you came. That was really good. That was really, let's see how long we went. Oh, we're not bad. It's just an hour. That's about what it normally is. Okay. So, yeah, I felt like we talked forever. That was a lot of conversations.
Yes, it was.
All right.
You know more about me now than
I ever did before.
Did.
Okay, so I always ask my people, who do you think in our church I should have next?
Who do I think you should have next? I think that since our middle-aged group is growing so much, that you should have somebody like Hannah. I know nothing about Hannah.
Oh, gosh.
She scares me. I'm
that
sorry,
would be
Hannah.
such a dangerous podcast.
I'm sorry, Hannah.
I'm glad
your red hair scares me. And sometimes you got that face of just leave me alone.
She has she does have the redhead anger.
Yeah.
I've roomed with her for a year.
Yeah, like when she come in to get Max the other day, when they were saying, she was like, I'm here for Max. And I was like, what did I do?
She's like, are there cameras? What? I was like,
what did I do?
I can't believe, oh gosh. Yeah, okay, Hannah might be.
So Hannah seems a little bit unapproachable to me, but now, like, I like her now. This is just, just because it's okay. We're good.
Once you know Hannah, there's no going back.
But
you think Jake is interesting? Oh, just wait.
See, I'm glad you haven't had Jake on here, because I like to mess with him when he's like, well, what do you think I did for college? I'm like, let me look at you. Godzilla lover. Oh, wait. Is it Godzilla or King Kong? I don't know. They're both the same.
They're the same thing.
Okay, same.
Oh, my gosh. Okay,
so Hannah would be a good one.
We might have to get Hannah on.
Yeah. Or somebody else in that kind of middle age can reach out.
I've been told to get like Zach or Hannah or like maybe Dakota. I don't know that Dakota would actually do it. He barely talks.
I was going to say Dakota
10 minutes.
Don't say anything.
Dakota's would be 10 minutes.
Like, and all the time I've been coming regularly, I've heard 10 words.
Yeah.
About a wasp.
Yeah. But I tried to avoid Zach because he's family and I don't want to just interview family, but eventually I'm going to have to.
You are, because I think he relates. I can tell you Zach really relates and reached out to Wyatt, and I feel like Wyatt has grown in his faith and his way of being because of Zach.
Yeah. Because
they were able to reach out.
He's pretty good he's like my opposite. That's what makes us funny, is like I am very brash, harsh, like I'm gonna give it to you blunt, very sarcastic. Yeah. And Zach is very like, come in, let's talk, how's life been going? Like he'll play basketball with you, but he'll also like, help you he'll sit down and help you find something in the scriptures. It's so funny. And so like we always tease them when they miss like a Wednesday or something. They'll walk in and I'm immediately like, where have you been? And Zach's like, are you okay? And it's like we're the complete opposites. But I think that's why we're so good at working with the youth, because there's both sides of us.
And I mean, I can even say like during extreme winter, like I'm an adult and my patience was tried at a couple times. It was I never seen Zach like blink another eye. I was like, I need time alone. Like I need to go breathe. Yes. And Zach's like, let's go in the middle. Let's go.
He's so level-headed, and he's so like, he just never, like, energy when he's around the kids. And I'm like, it's like I'm the Spitfire, and he's just like, okay, we need to chill. So it's a very nice, and it flips too. Like if Zach's letting them have a little bit too much leeway, I'm the one that's like, sit down.
Yes.
Enough. Like we'll come in on Wednesdays, and Zach's trying to get him quiet, and he's like, okay guys, and I'm like, sit down. And they're like, and it helps that I have them all in class, so they're like, oh crap, Miss Faith is here.
Yeah. Oh darn it.
Yeah. It's like,
Faith's here tonight.
I'm gonna get written up. But okay. Oh, Hannah might be an interesting one. Okay. Well,
I think that would be a good one for you.
okay. I don't even know what questions to come up with for her, but we'll come up with some.
No, Hannah, you can always have Wyatt. That'll be
That's
real
true.
entertaining.
Oh gosh. The amount of times he'll say Sigma. Or like
Are
Skibbity.
you the Sigma? Or is he the Alpha? Or is he the Sigma?
I don't even know.
Or Skibbity Toilet?
I don't even
Riz.
know. I don't even know. Ohio Riz. Skibbity Toilet.
That's my kid.
He told me I was his favorite teacher the other day because I walked in and Draven said, hi, Miss Faith. And he said, how's your day been? And I said, howdy, Sigmas. And he went, he said, new favorite teacher.
Oh, that's great.
So I think I'm going to start just randomly saying those words to make him pay attention in class.
He would too. He would too.
Like, and then Shakespeare said, what the Sigma, dude? And he'd be like,
he did. Until that pops up on a test and it'll be like, Sigma, Skibbity,
Sigma,
Toilet.
where's Sigma?
Riz.
Oh, gosh. Okay, well, I'm going to let you get back to your Monday, and I'm going to go get my child. But thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And that has been our episode. I think
Yay.
I'm gonna,
Yay.
I think I'm going to make the first clip, both of us shouting, mesothelioma!
Yeah.
But you're in for it today.
The mesotheliomas.
Thanks for watching. If you're interested for more information on our church, you can visit our website at lonestarbaptist.org or come see us at 350 Lone Star Lane in Greers Ferry, Arkansas.